Midday in Bordeaux, lunchtime, another meal. We can never stop talking about food here. We live on it. Having said that, uh, this notion of civilization and the fact that this idea is popping up in the most unusual, unexpected circumstances after a long absence, I've discussed earlier. And it didn't provoke much of a response. Maybe it takes a while for things to get out and about. But I then returned to the fray with Memoria College and Memoria Press in the United States, which is a homeschooling movement, Protestant, conservative, but they want to restore Latin, make Latin the central mental exercise of the curriculum at all levels. And I admire this enormously. I mean, I learned Latin in school, and Latin was part of our tradition. And I've discussed this and why this is because of the cultural circumstances and Catholic education at the time. And there is a Catholic dialogue to be maintained here with people like Memoria because there's a huge overlap, and Latin is the beginning and ending of it. Whatever Latin has become, it was for a very long time a Catholic language. So, and we learned it. Now, given that, being a precocious child in the 50s, having imbibed this tradition, I was just shocked at the 60s. There were many things about the 60s which I really needed and embraced and made my own. For example, unexpected women's rights, for example. I did not agree with the old order about that. Just for starters, there were others. But that was one. The racial attitude was another. Nevertheless, the attack on dead white European males made by the New Left or its successors, I think the New Left was more careful. I think the Frankfurt School and Marcuse had attempted to keep these people intellectually grounded, serious, rigorous. And by the time of the Beatles generation, Rolling Stones, call it what you will, built in, people just said, this is fusty and old-fashioned and reactionary, I don't want any part of it, and they embraced what I call the poetics of feeling, the politics of feeling, of, if you will, kindness, but no footnotes, no intellectual discussion. That was considered, as I say, fusty and old-fashioned. Now, for me, wandering into this, marijuana fumed room with my intellectual tradition, I came across as heavy, and they came across as lightweights, and it really never ended, that particular thing. So, Marxism. Marxism is a serious deal in European tradition, and I encountered the most serious Marxist version of Marxist tradition in Japan, not in California. It just wasn't. But in Japan it was. And so as a consequence of this, I have the unmistakable suspicion that I hadn't verbalized before that Marxists now, Lucien Goldmann, for example, the great French sociologist, I admire him because I came to Lucien Goldmann from my literary passion for Racine. And just to put this into condition, lest you think, and it's fussy, is that I can't tell you, and you need to ask your gay friends if they learned things in school. There was no text in my entire 4 years of a Catholic high school which shocked me and mobilized me and absorbed me and made me think again about so many things than Phaedra, Racine's play, because of Hippolyte, this anti-woman male figure. And I don't know how high school, you never know what's going on in high school, but I don't know what my fellow high school mates made of this, but I was transformed, and quite by chance in the curriculum we were in. We had read it once in English and once in French, and so it was ingrained. And this, so you see, literature's serious. And there is a liberal tradition. James Baldwin probably sums up 2 wings of it, which I won't go into here. So, back to the point. Lucien Goldmann now, what we're going to do with him 50 years on. And the point is, he's a cultural conservative. He is a call to order, standards, intellectual rigor, and his insistence on the marriage of history and humane ideas, humanity, if you will. These are more important than ever now, as we seem to be lacking both a sense of humane gentleness, and at the same time, our relationship with history is so poor. I mean, listen to commentators talk about the past, and my goodness, the poor things. They barely know what they're doing because it hasn't been important. They haven't imbibed it. In my generation, imbibed it. I can tell you the dates of the French and Indian War. These people don't know where Canada is. So it's a different thing. We've had enough. And Lucien Goldmann will be with us at those barricades as we fight for intellectual rigor and the return to excellence, a call to order.